And I have never seen those organizations sign off on anything with less information as to whether or not it does long-term harm of anything in my life. And when I ask about that, when I bring that up, then they immediately label you as trans.
Dr. Phil has something to say, so you know it's going to be an issue.
It's interesting they choose words like gender-affirming care. That's interesting that they call it that, but really what they're talking about is hormonal therapy or sex reassignment surgery on children. And in fairness, the American Medical Association, the American Academy of Pediatrics, the American Endocrine Society, or whatever the exact name of that is, all of the major medical associations have signed off on this, Joe. They've signed off on it. And I have never seen those organizations sign off on anything with less information as to whether or not it does long-term harm of anything in my life. And when I ask about that, when I bring that up, then they immediately label you as transphobic.
Welcome to the club, Dr. Phil.
And I thought that the deal was first do no harm. And all of the European countries, Sweden, Norway, they've all stopped doing it because they say, we cannot say in good conscience that this does no harm, because it does harm. If you look at the long-term consequences, if someone changes their mind at 10, 11, 12, 13 years old, they can't decide which pajamas they want to wear at night. And their reason for doing it is it stops this drive for suicide, that there's a suicide epidemic. It doesn't fix that.
And most people that support this tell me, well, if they had to de-trans, they were never trans. Stop making a big deal about this. I'm like, okay, cool. I wonder who got richer just because of this mistake.
It doesn't fix all the comorbid issues that come along with feeling like they're in the wrong body. But yet they're pushing this, and we're going to do some shows that are already taped that are revealing what the real results of this are. And I think people are going to be shocked that these medical organizations have signed off on this. I think they've just given in to the pressure.
Yeah, I just don't understand where the pressure is coming from. Another phrase they're using now is life-saving gender-affirming care. They like to smash them all together like that.
Well, I don't think
it's
that I just don't think that there's evidence to suggest that's true. Is this the guy you're talking about?
He said there's no such thing as parental rights in Canada. Children have rights in Canada, and those kinds of policies restrict the rights children have. This is a wild thing, man. I've never seen anything like it.
But America's not far behind that, because I've talked to a lot of teachers, and they're telling me that they have a duty to the children, that if the child is not ready to talk to their parents about this, that it's okay for them to keep a secret from the child. Now,
the amount of teachers that I've seen on TikTok saying the most unique stuff, I won't even trust them as a person because they don't seem balanced. And now the same type of people that usually post these messages with certain way of thinking that I'm like, I don't trust you, has the right to keep it a secret from a parent because they feel like they are psychologists, they are a therapist, and they know better. Knowing my kid for a few hours in private than the parents that was taking care for the kids for hours.
Now, let me tell you what my problems with this are and see what you think. First off, if this is either a psychological phenomenon or a medical phenomenon, and the teachers are not trained in either psychology or medicine. They're not any more trained to deal with that than they are to take out the kid's spleen in the homeroom.
And I've been saying this all the time, and I don't need to be a Dr. Phil to be able to say that because it's common sense. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, this is unique content special. You know the algorithm, so help me out a little with a like, a comment, and see you till the end.
So if that's true, if it's a psychological thing, if it's gender dysphoria, or it's a medical issue, then you need someone trained in child psychology, psychiatry, or medicine. And the teacher's not trained in any of those three things. Like I say, they're not any more trained in that than they are to take out the child's spleen. So how are they qualified to deal with that? Secondly, it's teaching the child to keep a secret from their parents. It's teaching deception and interfering between the child's relationship with their parent. Now, their issue, their justification for that is, well, if the child goes home and announces this, or if we tell it to the parent, then the child could get abused. The child could get judged. The child could get kicked to the curb. But they have to admit statistically that that is very rare. And if that's the case, that's what we have Department of Child and Family Services for. That's what we have Child Protective Services for. If that's the case, then you call in for some intervention if the child is being abused at home for whatever reason.
Maybe they don't want to call Child Protective Services because when they hear the case exactly, Child Protective Services might say, yo, teacher, I think you are the abuser.
Then you get intervention in that way. But you don't come between the child and their parent. The parent has the right to know what's going on.
Without a doubt. And also, these people that are teaching these kids, do we even know them? You don't know them. I mean, how much do you know about them before they start teaching your kids?
Well, that's
it could
the
be
thing.
insane. It's not like the threshold for teachers is so high that only the elite of the elite cross it. You see a lot of these weird people teaching classes, and you don't necessarily want them giving advice to children about decisions for the rest of their life.
See, told you.
And here's an important point that people need to really take into consideration. There's a reason why they have little kids become suicide bombers. Because you can talk kids into almost anything. You talk them into believing in Santa Claus. You talk kids into believing in all kinds of ridiculous shit because they're really young. You could easily convince them in one way or another that they're anything, that they're queer, that they're trans. You could 100% convince some kids of all kinds of things, especially by reinforcing it with love and support and happiness.
Especially when they don't get it at home, especially when parents are not very active in the lives of their kids, because most of the kids that have this situation, they usually come from single parents.
You can convince people of a lot of things. That's what's uncomfortable for a lot of people. For a lot of gay people, they're uncomfortable with the idea that a lot of these kids are just going to grow up to become gay. My friend Tim Dillon's talked about that a bunch. He says it's homophobic. It's like they're trying to say, no, you're a girl. And really, maybe you're just gay. Like, that's okay. It was always a thing. And now all of a sudden it's getting, you're looking at little kids. It might just be gay kids. You're saying maybe you're a girl. Maybe you need to go to a gender reassigning surgery center and never have an erection or an orgasm for the rest of your life. Like, what the fuck are we doing?
Yeah,
They're so young.
It's not, I don't think it's appropriate or safe for children. And I think there is a huge body of literature that addresses these issues from end to end. There's not a huge body of literature about the transgender population, and that's the problem. And what literature is out there suggests that you get, and this is what you see from the European countries. They've done study after study from these suppressive hormones compared to doing psychotherapy, and there's not much difference. If you do psychotherapy, you can ease the depression, you can ease the suicidal tendencies with psychotherapy without doing the irreversible things. They say, well, you can reverse those things. No, that's not true. If you arrest the development, that can have ramifications long term, or at least they can't say it doesn't have ramifications long term.
There's also serious side effects from the hormone blockers.
Well, of course, and if you're doing testosterone blockers, for example, that does have long-term consequences. And
I've already covered this. There's so many things that's going to happen to your body. You always will have to take specific pill forever. Many of these things give you, what was it again? A higher chance to get cancer. I believe many times when they use the word hormone blocker, you have no idea what you're taking, but usually it's a medicine with a side effect that kind of helps you in a way because it makes you more feminine or masculine. But then you find out you've been taking a medicine with a side effect that it's causing a lot of damage to your liver. And there's so many things that people just leave out. And I just think it's way more dangerous than people think. And it's way sadder when people want to inform people about this. They just get silenced as if, oh my God, you're a traitor. You don't want to be what you're supposed to be. And I'm like, yo, so much social pressure on a kid. Or maybe even the parents, because most of the time they tell the parents, if they don't do this, they will snippety snip themselves.
my point is, they can't say it doesn't. They don't have a body of literature that says it doesn't. And
What do you
I'm
think
not
is
a physician.
behind it, though? Like, how did this, if this is so contrary to the way most people feel, what do you think is behind it, especially the push towards children, affirming children? Do you think it's because there's people that are queer or LGBT, whatever, and they want other people to be a part of their group?
I believe in this system it's the first time that certain people have access to kids at a specific level that they can actually change the way kids think. And it's such a powerful tool that very bad people might try to use this for their own purposes.
To be a part of their group? Is it they want more LGBT people? They want to encourage this behavior. They think it's suppressed, and maybe there's more people that are gay or whatever, and they want to come out and they just get suppressed by it, so they're trying to make it like more enthusiastic. Like, how is this trans thing becoming a major point of debate with children where it never has in history?
If they can get something passed like an ideology, what about the trans? When they were talking about BLM, they keep saying, what about the black trans? I'm like, what are you talking about? BLM, trans, they're the same thing if they're black. Why do you need to keep using that word to justify just because it's about trans, we deserve more empathy? I think it's a unique way to push boundaries to get anything done.
This trans thing becoming a major point of debate with children where it never has in history. In your life, in my life, there was never all this talk about trans children. Like this, it seems insane that we've forgotten that kids don't know what the fuck is going on yet.
I think a lot of it is owing to social media platforms and the internet. I think this is what I'm talking about when I say the activists, I don't think speak for the community at large. I think they get an agenda that they're pushing, and I think they really get wrapped up in this, and it gets a lot of oxygen on the internet. It gets a lot of oxygen on social media platform. Now, they say there's no social contagion here, but the girls that are claiming to be transgender, that percentage has gone up. Some reports say it's gone up 800%, 1,000% over the last several years, and they say, well, that's because they feel more comfortable talking about it now.
And the amount of validation I see kids get on TikTok during COVID, it does not surprise me anymore.
True, or is it because you read about it, you see it on social media, and you think, well, I can distinguish myself in this way? I think there is a social contagion effect. So people jump on the bandwagon, and if it's for a short period of time, but they've done things that can't be reversed, I think that's really tragic. And they say there are very few detransitioners. I don't think that's true. I think there's a lot more detransitioners that want to reverse this and come back than are being reported.
And they have been telling me those detransitioners are not trans. So officially they don't count. Okay, well, I know Dr. Phil actually might have blown up Twitter. When the videos comes out, I'm definitely going to watch it. And normally I don't watch Dr. Phil, but I really want to know what kind of research he found. Other than that, let me know what you guys think about the whole situation. You know, algorithm is special with this kind of content. Like, share, hit the bell notification. Peace.
Don't get me wrong, ma cosa kita bong. Buta fire na mi blonde kush hash purple skunk criollo colombici jam jam turloqueta verdeta welcome.